Sego everyone, Chief Sherri-Lyn Hill here. Nyawa, thank you for tuning in to the weekly Chief and Council radio show. Let's get started with some updates. On Sunday, I spent some time on the water and sharing some words during the 2 row on the Grand Paddle. It was a great event. The paddle was so serene. It's safe to say I'm officially hooked. Just a reminder that there are plenty of vegetables in the planter boxes at the administration building and along Chiefswood Road that the J.C. Hill Thunder Club assisted with. Please help yourself. Chiefs of Ontario are working to support municipality property tax exemption. Staff informed the Chiefs of Ontario table on economic development on July 15th that their technicians are going to be conducting some research and further discussions about the resolution that I recently made to restore the municipal property tax exemption. I attended the Ontario First Nations Limited Partnership on July 4th, the OFNLP AGM in Toronto. The OFNLP provides funds from gaming proceeds in the province of Ontario to Partnership First Nations. They will be coming to Council to do a presentation. Also on July 4th, following the OFNLP meeting, Ontario First Nations Sovereign Wealth Fund. Six Nations is a shareholder of this fund, along with 129 First Nations in Ontario region. They also will be coming to Council to do a presentation. From July 8th to the 11th, myself, Councillor Dean Hill, Councillor Amos Key Jr., Councillor Greg Fraser, and Councillor Leslie Greene attended the 2024 Assembly of First Nations General Assembly in Montreal. The theme for this year's AGA was strengthening our relations. While I was there, I also met with Grand Chief Remy Vincent of the Huron-Wendat on July 9th. The Grand Chief Vincent visited Six Nations a year ago, so the meeting was very informative as we discussed addressing shared challenges, including similar dealings with land claims. Chief of Ontario Leadership Council meeting that was on July 9th. This is the first LC meeting since the newly elected Ontario Regional Chief Benedict was selected. The focus was on moving forward. Regarding planning ahead, discussions were held on assigning Leadership Council members with portfolios, strategic planning for political advocacy. The 59th elected council will be attending the upcoming AMO conference in Ottawa in August. The conference historically involved municipalities, but First Nations are getting involved because it's a good opportunity to build productive working relationships with nearby communities and also being able to meet with provincial cabinet ministers. Recently, I met with the mayor of the City of Waterloo, July 16th. The City of Waterloo requested this meeting in follow-up to the March summit to continue building a positive relationship with Six Nations. During our recent meeting, opportunities of collaboration were discussed. The potential to hire Six Nations artists, historians, or others for events, festivals, and community building activities that the city organizes. The potential for the city to source native plants and seedlings from Six Nations lands and resource team, Guyana Say Greenhouse, and related teams for local parks and public spaces. The opportunity to broaden education resources that are provided during staff orientation, training, and development to include information about First Nations history, which include the Woodland Cultural Center and the Mohawk Institute Residential School, as well as present-day challenges, opportunities, and accomplishments. In the months to come, I will be seeking meetings with all municipalities on the Haldimand Tract to promote awareness of Six Nations, our Haldimand Tract court case, and our historic presence on our traditional territories. Tim Hortons Camp Day was July 17th. I joined Councillor Elena Van Avery and Councillor Dean Hill and accepted the challenge to sit in the Camp Day dunk tank at the Ohsweken location. Camp Day is Tim Hortons' largest fundraiser that benefits so many kids and youth. It was great to be part of this day and to get dunked. It's a long weekend, and I hope everyone can spend time with family and friends, enjoying each other's company, and everyone to be safe. On these hot days that we've been having, please take care and watch out for each other and stay hydrated. This week features inspiring words about the tall grass from Councillor Carol Leslie Greene. Enjoy the show, everyone, and welcome Councillor Greene.
Thank you very much, Chief. This is Daryl Smart, the Public Relations Coordinator here at the Six Nations of the Grand River, and today we've got Councillor Leslie Greene. Leslie, how are you today?
Oh, thanks for asking, Daryl. I'm doing great. I want to say good morning or good afternoon to our Six Nations community and surrounding areas. That is depending where you are. So if you're listening from here on territory, it's going to be the morning or afternoon. So
excellent. And today you're going to speak a little bit about invasive species, tall grasses, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll just let you take it away.
Absolutely. Okay, so when we talk about invasive species here at Six Nations, we're talking about, the growth of overgrowth of particular weeds, basically. And the information that I'm going to share with you today is from a practicum prepared by our Linda Parker, who works here as Chief of Staff at Six Nations. Okay, and I also spoke with Geert O'Deer from Guyana Say this morning for a little bit more information to give you at the end of the conversation here. So, I'm going to talk about the Phragmites. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Have you heard of it, Daryl?
Yeah, actually, it locally, just down the road in Turkey Point, there was a lot to do about Phragmites, and I believe it was 2019, where the Phragmites, which are an invasive species, invaded the beachlands on the west side of the beach in Turkey Point, and M&R came in and cleaned it up, and of course there was a lot of hullabaloo about it, but kind of the same kind of deal with here at Six Nations not too long ago.
Right. So what we have predominantly here on Six Nations is called wild parsnip, and it's so amazing because it comes from the carrot family, right? And you could mistake it for something that's good. But what you'll notice is that it has that yellow topping on top, looks like the Queen Anne's lace, but it's not good for the community. It chokes out other good growing grasses, other good growing native medicinal herbs, vegetation that we may have here.
It is a type of Phragmites, right?
Yes, it is. So and when you talked about it happening over there at Turkey Point, that raised concern. Because I need you to know that there's so many different ways that Phragmites travel. And you might say, well, who put that here on our property? Nobody specific, because it can travel overland. It could be on your tires, in your trunk of your car. It could be on the back of your boat. And then when you bring it home and you park it, it may start a growth right there on the ground. But more than that, it can travel because when you think about Phragmites or any plant life, it knows no borders. So it can move about by various methods.
Actually, a good example of that, I know when we had a trench dug into our lawn, I had a really nice lawn, and then when the cable people dug the trench into our lawn, they had to replace with soil, and all of a sudden there was invasive weeds all over the lawn, which is kind of crazy.
I know when you're ordering topsoil, you're hoping that it's very clean topsoil, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay, so I'm sorry that happened to you too that way, and you see it all the time.
Yeah.
People are calling back like, "Come and fix what you put here." But that doesn't just mean to flatten it or level it or give it time to settle. It means take out what you put in there on somebody's property. Okay, so when we talk about that they don't have any borders, these invasive things. They don't, because they can move also by birds picking up their seeds, can move by any animal. It could get attached to its fur, or however an animal might chew some of it and then drop it off somewhere else, as well as humans, when we just don't even know we picked up something invasive.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And then it's going to go like wildfire.
It really is invisible, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because it can be windborne as well. When you say invisible, you made me think of the wind. So the animals, the birds, and all of us, we all contribute, right, to the span of both welcome and unwelcome vegetation. So, but today we're talking about the unwelcome ones. So back to the wild parsnip. We'll move on from there right now, but I did say it looks like the Queen Anne's lace, but it's yellow. that's the one you want to cut down and get it out of your bush lots. Now, if you're having difficulty managing any of these as we go through this, if there you find them on your property and you're having difficulty managing them, then I would give Guyana Say, which is located on Highway 54 off of Chiefswood Road, and contact Geardo Deer. He would be more than happy to speak with you, or anyone on the eco team could come and assist you in management of these wild things.
What are some of the other invasive species? I know there has been a little bit about tall grasses and whatnot here, especially just more recently. What about that?
Okay, in terms of the tall grasses, that some of them are overtaken. Like let's say you plant Kentucky bluegrass, thinking it's a good thing, but what it does is it is so evasive that soon you just have Kentucky bluegrass and you've choked out our native grass that grows here. And that's sad. I mean, you made a choice, but at the same time it is invasive over that. Some of the other plants,
Yeah, the giant hogweed is one.
Right.
That's a very common one as well. I see a lot of that around.
right, and
as
that hogweed is the one that it can grow really big and get a stalk. Mostly it's in the water right now along the river, and I heard that it is happening right now in the flats down there on just off of 6 Line.
Because of all the rain that we've had.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain and a lot of flooding here over the summer. So
And so they go into wherever there's water, right? So what it creates, if you get that toxic sap on your skin from that giant hogweed, what it creates is the phytophotodermatitis, and that means basically that plant, when it's that sap comes from that plant, and when the sun hits your skin where that sap touched you, it can bubble up and burn. And if you scratch your eyes, can you imagine how horrible that will be? So be very mindful when you're down around waterways about the hogweed, particularly for children, because it would be much more harmful on their bodies, because they're just new to this earth, and it's up to us to help keep them safe.
absolutely, and the common buckthorn is another one.
Oh,
That is all over the place here. I've seen it all over.
yes, and going at that sometimes, handling it after you've cut it down and you're going to get ready to dispose of it, you go back to go handle it again, and sometimes it gets in your sticks you right in the hand or something, even when you're wearing gloves.
Absolutely.
And it hurts. Yeah,
Absolutely, and we've talked about the wild parsnip, but is the garlic mustard. That's pretty common around here as well.
it is.
And one final one is the Japanese knotweed.
Oh yeah, that's got like a thick cord, and that Japanese knotweed is old, and it's I want to tell you about that. That was grown in the most harshest environment, and for it to be, you could almost say tundra. So it comes from there. When it got here, it's been traveling back and forth throughout the different nations like Europe, Russia, here, all over the place. So when it got to Canada, and it is here, it's very noticeable.
And these are all really common to the Carolinian forest, right? Carol?
Yes.
And
yes.
of course, we're right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the Carolinian forest.
Yeah, so that borders southern Ontario, goes up to Windsor, and clears across north of Toronto. And it's so exciting to talk about the Carolinian forest.
I love the Carolinian forest.
Yeah. Well, we have, it's a very unique ecosystem that we have, and it has 2,200 herbaceous plants, 70 different species of trees, and 110 species of grass.
Nice.
It's exciting.
It is exciting, and if you go into any of the forests, it's fantastic to look through. But just to kind of back up a little bit, could you just tell the listeners just a little bit more about ecosystems?
Okay, ecosystems and is so important to understand because it affects ecosystem like like the air quality, water, soil, minerals, sunlight, temperature, nutrients, wind, altitude, turbidity. All those things are affected as you think about our planet Earth. You think about how things go up and come back down and around. And going around in a circle, like in terms of the food chain as well, from the smallest insect to the next, like a little frog, amphibious, and then to the fish, over to mammals and over to humans and animals and so on and so forth. It's so important that we help to protect those ecosystems, right?
And since it is a forest, what kind of a role do the trees play in the ecosystem? I think it would play a huge role, wouldn't it?
Oh, it does. See, the trees are so important because they absorb carbon dioxide. That's the emissions that are in the air. The biggest like carbon sink, which absorbs that, is our ocean. But because of our Carolinian forests, it is doing the same purpose right here in southern Ontario. It is drinking in the carbon dioxide, but emitting very little back into the atmosphere.
And especially with the sun, now that the with climate change and everything, we don't want to get into that today, but just with the sun energy, and you were talking a little bit about sun energy. What is sun energy, and what role does it play?
Okay, so sun energy is very, very important for our Earth, for Mother Earth. It brings in the sun, which like the photosynthesis and things that occur, right? It's converted into usable energy for the ecosystems. So if you have an invasive plant that's stopping the sun from hitting the smaller things next to the Earth, that's not going to thrive anymore. It's going to choke it out. It's going to choke it out because it can't. It's not allowing that sunshine to reach those areas in the forest. Also, those invasive species, some of them like the shade. So those other good plants that thrive in the shade, it chokes them out also.
So it's kind of like the tundra you were talking about, not the car.
That's right, not the car.
Not the car.
Tundra. Okay.
Are there any other points that you wanted to make about the just about invasive species in the area?
Oh yes, I want to talk about pathways. There's 245 different avenues that it came in for the 486 invasive plants in Canada that they know of. So agricultural cropping, that ornamental or landscape plants that were able to come in, right? And soil improvement or erosion control, research purposes, it was brought in, some of them, and then very small percentage is unknown. But that would be an intended pathway, these ones. Then there's unintended ways of it coming through, and that's being tourists, that's being somebody coming from their homelands wanting to bring some of their best beautiful plants here, but they turn out to be invasive to our territories here. Okay, so you say, well, if you can tell me about what's not good here and what is invasive, I'll just share a little bit about the trees.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go round back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Manitoba maple, it just can take right over. You don't want it to do that. So what would be native would be our black cherry trees, and you wouldn't want to have the like the Japanese ones or the Norway maple. It grows in a deep shade. That's the one I was talking about, and it threatens the native forest habitats in there.
Wow, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
So I just found it very interesting. I wanted people to understand. I want our community to know that there are invasive species here. We all have that responsibility to keep pushing back against those weeds, those things that would take over good crop lands, good, like, you know, some of our properties are bordered by just a little bush lot. In that little bush lot, you could have so much in there that's good. You could have a edible landscape in there, but you won't know if those invasive species are in there choking them out.
And like you said, maybe contact our good friends at Guyana Say about it for more information about it. And again, that's one of the major reasons why a few weeks ago there was a cleaning of the weeds, because
yes,
and it was a contentious issue within community. But again, by your explanation, it was one of those things that was thoroughly thought out, and that's why it was done, right?
Well, I was particularly happy to hear that the native plants and the medicines were already removed to save them.
I think
that's the key point.
Yeah.
Is that nothing was lost that way. And what they did do was uproot and take out that nasty Phragmites.
Yeah.
those invasive things, those invasive weeds and things like that. That's what was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can check it out with Guyana Say. They have those plants, and I'm so thankful for that. So, if you need any help managing some of the Phragmites or the invasive species on your property, feel free to call Gertle Deer, at 519-770-0013, and that's at the Guyana State, which is located at 993 on Highway 54.
Excellent. Well, and thank you very much, Leslie, for having us on the radio show and explaining this to us. It was really great to have you here.
I'm really glad to be here too, and I'm just hoping that our community will hear this and share with the kids.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And over to you, Chief.
Nyawa, and thank you for those inspiring words, Councillor Greene. And Nyawa, and thank you to all of you for tuning in and listening to the Chief and Council radio show. Until our next episode, take care, be safe, be well, and be kind. Have a great week.